Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Gooner Talk podcast, our TGT podcast. Every week I'm joined by a couple of guests from our regular section as we look back at the week's events, which looks like after Boxing Day had turned a corner. We gained traction, we gained momentum, things were looking up. But if there's one thing that you can be promised being an Arsenal fan, it's disappointment, frustration, and officials screwing you over. I'm very happy to say that this week I'm joined by two fantastic guests who I have muted, so they will need to unmute themselves when they wish to speak. First of all, it's Jon. How you doing, mate? Are you well?
Doing good. As good as you can, right? With this, I mean, it's just so far. We'll talk about it. I'm doing all right.
Good. Yes. No. Yeah. In terms of general life, things are well. Besides Arsenal.
Things are. I mean, as good as they can be as well, I guess. But yeah, it's just the same old crap. Same old crap.
Same old crap. And the man who I was uncomfortable watching the game. If there's a man that is sitting in a more uncomfortable position and on a wooden chair, it's Adam. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm paying for my sins, though, man. It's like I'm doubling down on the controversy, on the issues, the problems that we have by sitting on this chair. And I also got embroiled in a Twitter storm, which is one of those that's happened.
Tell me about this.
So the TFO group chat decided to put out a worst 11.
Great idea.
It was like a really bad worst 11 because there was no logic behind it. It was like top 6 player teams. Top 6 club players. But with Meslier in there as well, and I just got swarmed by Leeds fans because I was the one that posted it. So yeah, that was really fun. Really
nice. Yeah, I mean, it's just a bit of a glutton for punishment at the moment, I think.
Clearly.
Yeah. I mean, I sat here on Friday and did on our Let's Talk Arsenal show, and someone asked, do your all-time Emirates 11, post Emirates era 11, and I put Bukayo Saka in at the beginning, and the amount of people that were saying, "What are you doing? Where's Theo Walcott?" on the right hand side, and I was like, "Oh God." Didn't realise there was this much love for Theo Walcott, but there is apparently.
Why?
So, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah,
Does anyone watch him?
He scored over 100 goals for us. I mean, that's fair. I understand that. But yeah, saying Bukayo Saka's not done enough yet, and I get that. It's just Theo Walcott ran away celebrating after scoring against us. How can I celebrate him? Although saying that, I did put Robin van Persie as my striker. So it's just completely. But I don't think there's an argument.
Well, no, he's one of the best. Yeah. I mean, it's annoying, but it's true.
Yeah, we hate him, but he honestly, when you think about it, he's probably the best striker we've had at the Emirates. So that's the issue. Thierry Henry did play at the Emirates, of course, but wasn't the same as Highbury, that's for sure. Anyway, we're getting off on a tangent already. I can see where this pod's going to devolve into. But we obviously drew yesterday, Jon, against Burnley. It's incredibly frustrating. What are your raw reactions to the game?
I think it's really difficult to kind of pinpoint one thing to be upset about. There's so much that kind of went wrong with this match. And it's so weird because we didn't even lose, right? That's the thing. We drew, but it feels like a loss. It feels like points lost. And really, I think it comes down to, for me, the biggest thing, besides the penalty, that was a clear-cut penalty, was just the missed chances. And I thought it was frustrating because we probably saw Xhaka have the worst match he's had in an Arsenal shirt, which, you hope it doesn't keep continuing. I'm guessing it's just the kids played so much football, and all of these players have played so much football at this point that it was beginning to wear on them. And sometimes it's just not your day, right? You're hitting the woodwork. You're missing clear cut chances, like Pepe missing a. I would have scored that goal probably, but it happens. It happens. It's not the end of the world, but it was not a fun match to watch. I even tweeted at the time, this match is so frustrating, and I think that is the best word to describe what this game was. It's frustrating. From the refereeing, from the missing chances, from the goal that was conceded. It was all just frustrating, and that's what it is.
Adam, what do you make of the point of view that Arsenal didn't do enough to win the game? I mean, if that's Adam's thinking face, oh, no, he's gone.
He's like,
did you see that?
He agrees. I think he agrees.
Adam did say that his connection may be a little bit iffy, as mine has been recently. I mean, John, the whole point, people were kind of putting out there that we didn't deserve to win this game. And I don't know. I feel like we created a lot of big chances. Like, I don't look at that game and go, this felt like the Arsenal of November, December, where we could barely win a fixture. We couldn't even barely score a goal. I don't feel it was like that. I felt like it was a game that was more... it's just like we could do everything we could and still not end up putting the ball in the back of the net because we created so many big chances.
It was one of those days that it just nothing kind of goes your way. And when you're asking, do you think we should deserve to win those? I think that you have to be, if you're really off, if your team is really off, you really, it's hard to say that you deserve to win a game like that. Obviously we're making the chances. You look at the expected goals or whatever, you look at the penalty decision. I think we should have at least had another goal. One way or another, the penalty should have been awarded for the handball.
we'll talk about that.
It should have been awarded for the handball. Forget all the other goal, the ones that we missed. Even with that crazy goal with Leno and Xhaka, it still would be 2-1 in my opinion. So I think in that regard we deserve to win. But knowing that sometimes it's just not your day, I'm hesitant to say we deserve to win, right? Even though I think that there were chances, like you said, that were being made.
Yeah. Adam, are you back? Are you there with us?
I think so, man. I'm so sorry, Tom. I'm so sorry.
It's fine, mate. You know that on your phone, if you turn your phone sideways, it does fill the whole screen. Like oh, there you go. Hey, look at that.
21st century.
Anyway, I was saying before you went, John gave his point of view, but it was kind of a point of view that was put across, and it was in some of the comments from the show yesterday that we didn't actually do enough to win the game for some people. It's like Arsenal didn't deserve to win that game. What do you make of that?
I think that's a little bit harsh. Honestly, I'm actually quite selfishly relieved because I didn't think there was going to be much to talk about in this game. I thought it was going to be a simple Arsenal, maybe 1-0, 2-0.
You've seen Arsenal before, Adam.
I have. But yeah, so I think it's really harsh to say that Arsenal didn't do enough to win the game. I saw a couple of comments at halftime where people were saying that Burnley looked good, and unless they watched a different game to the one I did, I have a completely different take. I think they eventually grew into the game. I think that was because Arsenal gave away a stupid, sloppy goal at a really unfortunate and ill-timed time or ill-timed moment. But I think we gave it to Burnley. The sheer fact that they didn't even score afterwards would tell you that it was us giving it away rather than them sort of snatching it from us, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I think we did do enough. Obviously, we had a harsh decision go against us. VAR, well done, managed to get the Eric Peters decision right. But, I mean, it gives with one hand and takes away with the other. So I think it's a little bit ridiculous.
No pun intended.
No.
or was it intended, John?
It was totally intended. He put his hand... Ridiculous.
Yeah,
just jumping in on that. Men in Blazers actually tweeted out that since we're talking about this what the game was. It said Arsenal are football's version of one of those Japanese game show obstacle courses where everything is designed to make you or hit you in the crotch. And that's kind of what it felt like. It felt like one of those games where everything was just designed to just like, what else? What's next? What next can we do to like make it difficult for us to win this game? Oh, let's have an obvious penalty, like not even looked at. No, like it's and whatever. It's just part of the deal.
Yeah, as I say, we'll talk about the penalty in a bit because it happened a little bit later on, and there was some other stuff to talk about. Obviously, the goal we scored was good. It was a good goal. It was well worked. We played out from the back, which obviously was our downfall a little bit later on in the game. But we played out from the back, and Partey's movement, Willian's assist, and Aubameyang scoring John that goal that he always scores, where he cuts in from the left and strikes into the bottom left-hand corner. It's almost as if we should play him more from the left because it seems to work. Go on.
Yes. Are you asking me if we should play him from the left? I think.
Well, I'm asking you if kind of the whole idea about playing him as an out-and-out striker, do we actually play like a system that suits Aubameyang really? Because it's a strange position that he plays, because if you play him as out-and-out striker, he ends up drifting to the left, which means it leaves our right winger with loads of space and not much kind of help. And in a way, you could ask and argue that's why maybe Pepe struggles playing alongside Aubameyang, because Pepe kind of does really well when he plays nearer a forward. So he's got people to make runs for him, make space for him, instead of being kind of overloaded with defenders.
Yeah.
So do you think that Aubameyang works as kind of this sole striker that drifts? It obviously works in the sense of the first goal, but for the rest of the game, we did kind of struggle to get the ball to Aubameyang in key scenarios.
Well, and I think that's the key. I think that if you're going to play him as a central striker, you need to make sure that you're playing to his strengths as a central striker. He loves playing off shoulders of defenders and making those little runs, and you have to get someone that could feed him the ball. You need a technically proficient, and I think like Odegaard playing as like a 10 would be able to kind of pierce the lines there that would allow Aubameyang to get the ball in positions and in a body position that would allow him more chances to score on goal. That being said, I also think that like you said, you need to consider who's on the wings. I think that Pepe on the left actually did really, really well for a while there, and then that kind of just disappeared out of nowhere, and there was no real explanation for why Pepe wasn't. Like, he was amazing for him on the left, and everyone was going, "Look, this is it! Like, you have this great thing going on," and we can talk about the merits of that. But I think that that you need to get the dynamic on the wings correctly if you're going to have Aubameyang playing centrally. And I think that we started off when there was a good run of games where that was happening, and then all of a sudden we stopped it. And I think that, to answer your question, if we're going to play him centrally, you need to have technical players in that like half space between the yard box and then the center circle that's going to be able to give him the ball. And you need people on the wings who are, like you said, if there's going to be one favor because he goes to the left, you're going to need to compensate for that on the right, and you're going to need to coach it that way. Otherwise, you're going to have these big gaps in space in the pitch, and then all of a sudden it's not going to work out, and you're going to see Aubameyang either not getting fed the ball or no other attacking threat if the defense can actually shut Aubameyang down, which is what we saw.
Suraj says that you're spot on in the assessment, so you must have said something right. It's exactly how he feels. Adam, obviously the goal came again. Willian with the assist, and he's someone that we've given a lot of stick. Yeah. I have, other people have, and he's now got more assists than Riyad Mahrez, than Hakim Ziyech, than a lot of other high-profile players in the league. Is it a combination of fair play, Willian, and shame on us, or is there an element of, no, he was very poor for the first half of the season? How do you assess Willian at the moment?
I think contextually, our reaction wasn't sort of overestimated or too much. I think considering we had so many Chelsea rejects in particular, I think another one in the shape of Willian, when we already had an aging playmaker on our books, didn't really seem to make much sense. So I think he deserved the stick that he got, especially considering he didn't sort of wow us, besides maybe the first game of the season when we played against Fulham, and he played fairly well. So yeah, I don't think there was much of an overreaction in that sense, but fair play to Willian, because he has done what I think we wanted him to do, what Arteta has expected of him since all of the criticism. And I think, just picking up on something John said when he was speaking, that Arteta hasn't really given much of an explanation as to why he sort of dropped Pepe or played him on the left. I think it might have been after the Olympiacos game. He said that there wasn't much space for Pepe to run in behind, and he wanted Willian on the pitch because he's better in tighter spaces. And I think perhaps there needs to be a bit more of or for Arsenal fans, we need to try and understand Arteta's methodology a little bit more. It's probably difficult to understand, especially when Pepe, we've wanted him to play well for so long, and then he does it, and then we're like, why would you drop him? But if we're going to trust Arteta, I guess we have to trust his methods as well. Even though I understand that it can be quite frustrating at times.
Yeah, it is really frustrating at times. And especially, I mean, some of the substitutions I have a big issue with some of them that I made. And Willian's performances, I don't think anyone expected him to be as bad as he has been in the first half of the season. And maybe that is just him finding a law, maybe even a law of averages, that he can't remain this kind of poor for this long, and he is going to turn things around eventually, and maybe that is happening. I've also spoken to some Chelsea fans who have said that he goes through these periods of 6 games or so during a season where he does look really good. I mean, if that's the start of a 6-game period, I mean, great. Hopefully it goes on for longer than 6 games. And that they come at really good moments. I mean, including those 6 games would be Olympiacos twice and Spurs. So if he plays in those games and smashes it, great. But obviously, we've just got to see those things happen. And it is annoying, as me and John were saying, that Spurs come good literally just as before we play.
Oh,
it's always,
they scored again, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. I think Kane with another
Son and Kane.
Yeah, Son and Kane. So it is what, is what it is. We'll get to that game a little bit later on today, I'm sure. Let's get to the really frustrating part of the match. I mean, I say there was quite a few of them, but one of them, which was Burnley's equaliser, John. How do I phrase this question?
What
the hell were we doing? And I say we because I don't particularly want to. I don't want to pin it on one person because I do think that Leno and Xhaka are both in equal fault for this. Yeah. So talk me through your thoughts around the mistake.
So to start, the premise that both of them are at fault for this, I think that I get, and Leno came out and kind of said this after the match, we play from the back. That's what we do. We're not, but you don't always, first of all, you don't always have to play from the back. And a good time not to play from the back is when the midfielder who's playing in a defender's role at the moment, who has a weak right foot, is covered by other players from the opposing team, and then you pass while they're under pressure and you're not, to a player on their weak foot. That's asking for trouble. And I get, like, Xhaka's pass was abysmal. It was terrible. And, it's like he'll make one every 18.7 games. I did the math. I did the math. And I have a lot. Yes. So, and then they tweeted this, so we can get into that because I actually looked at it, and it's interesting when you're looking at the volume of games he's played in the last 5 seasons and the minutes that he's played in the last 5 seasons. You're going to make mistakes as your chances to do so increase. It's going to happen. And we could talk about that later because I think it's interesting. But when you're looking at why this mistake happened, it was a combination of both of those things. It sucks. It sucks. It's a goal that really, and you look at the Burnley players just kind of like, I don't know what the hell just happened. I just scored a goal somehow. All right, let's do this. They didn't expect to score even, I think, and they barely threatened us at all. So that was a gift, and it sucked, and it was avoidable on 2 different occasions. But I think it starts with Leno, and it goes to Xhaka, and there's not much else there. It's just a bad decision from both parts. It is what it is. It's one of Xhaka's weaknesses is the ability to be technical in tight areas if he's under pressure and things like that. We know that. So why put him in that position? If you could avoid it, avoid it. And that's not talking about Xhaka as a player, and there's this broader conversation regarding Xhaka, but he's on the pitch right there, right? It's not, it's irrelevant who should be there instead of him, or whatever you think. Point is he's there. You got to maximize his potential and minimize the risk. That was a very risky pass to him, and it is what it is. And then we concede a goal. Yeah,
we do. It's really frustrating because not because obviously of the game, of the timing of it, towards the end of the first half, it had absolute mirror image of like the Wolves game where we had an amazing kind of first 35, 40 minutes and then utterly just shot ourselves in the foot. And it's just that, I mean, Adam, it frustrates me because I know you and me have sat here, and do you want to switch devices at this point? Is this what you're pointing me towards?
Let's do that, actually, yeah.
We've got double Adam. There we go.
Whoa. Sorry, I was like looking at the chat, and I came back. Yeah.
Hopefully Adam can hear. Can you hear us now, Adam, on the new device?
Yeah,
you can. So, we do this to ourselves, and it frustrates me because the season has been such a poor season. At the start of the season, things were really bad. And as John said, like Xhaka has these kind of individual errors in him. He makes these mistakes every 18.7 games. John's done the maths.
Since you brought it up, I'm sorry. I don't mean to hijack this one, but since just so we can get he's played in the last, and this is according to infogol.net, he has played just in the Premier League alone, 13,464 minutes of football. Minutes of football. All right. So, and just the way that breaks down, in 2021, he's played 22 games, only one as a sub, with an average of 88 minutes per match.
Wow.
This is just in the Premier League. In 2019-20, he played 30 games with one as a sub, an average of 90 minutes per match. 28, and then 2018, 2019, 29 minutes, 29 games, apps, 0 as a sub, with an average of 92 minutes per match. And then it keeps going. 2017, 2018, 37 games, one as a sub, 91 average minutes per match, 16, 17.
People are going to ask,
you
what's
get
the point?
My point is, in all of that time, that's an immense amount I can't imagine in the last 5 years that, and someone could go do the math, because I'm really not interested in looking at it, but if someone could show me, I imagine that is a significant amount of time to be on the pitch for any player, especially in the midfield in the Premier League, in a top club that's fighting on multiple fronts, because he's also played in Europa League and the FA Cup and stuff like that, and to stay fit as long as you can for that long, and to be on the pitch that long, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. I mean, it's lethargy. It's human, being a human. No one's perfect. Obviously some players might. So the point is, there's more of a chance of him making a mistake because he's been on this inordinate amount of time being relied on for the last 5 seasons straight. And it's actually kind of crazy to think about. It's basically it averages to about 1 mistake per season in the league, if you break it down. But the reality is, it's been better the last season. And think about the context of that, all of the changes that have happened in the last 5 years with respect to the manager, the transition from Wenger, fighting to get in the top 4, 2 different other managers, including an interim manager. Like, there's a context there. So when you see a stat, he's made 8 mistakes, which is more than any other one, you got to look at but
I know what tweet you're reference. Was it who scored? I don't want to.
I think it was Orino or someone. I don't remember someone.
It's just It's that he does, and we're not. This is not what we're saying. And we're not saying this is like, the mistakes. Okay, it's okay that he did that because he's played all these minutes. That's not what we're saying. The point is that it's frustrating because, for a player that's had actually over the last few games, I mean, he's played 12 games, I think, in a row without rest. And when we talked about players that do need rest, yes, a mistake is probably eventually going to happen. And we did enough, in my view, to make up for that mistake. And we should have put the game to bed after we even made the mistake in the game. So we created the chances to do that, and we didn't. And because we didn't, he is going to be villainized completely for this, and he's going to. And
the juxtaposition between the dialogue and the narrative that was the last game where he was. I'm sorry, I don't mean to totally hijack your question, Adam.
I hate you.
But I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But Xhaka was such
Adam's
a big
never coming back. You've hurt his feelings.
Xhaka was such a big talking point last match when he did so well, and just this juxtaposition of the way that people are talking about him now. It's worth mentioning because it's such an interesting kind of thing about how football works 1 week to another. And the frustration that's kind of bubbling up between one group of fans who probably weren't saying much when he was doing well, but now that he's made this mistake that was obviously a big part on him, it just comes out, which is football. I get it, but I like to look at the context. I've never been one that's just going to blindly back a player, but I'm also one that's not going to unfairly criticize them. Xhaka has these mistakes in his game, and a lot of our players have these individual mistakes, and I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have moving forward is to get these little individual errors that totally change the game.
Which is why I wouldn't be renewing David Luiz's contract.
That's a good argument why you wouldn't. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hijack, but it was just something I wanted to get out there.
I think it's really worth bringing that up. And the thing is, Adam, is that let's play devil's advocate to this, right? So Xhaka has been good for us. This is an individual mistake, and people obviously will associate him in the same bracket of the likes of David Luiz, who makes mistakes, with Skodran Mustafi, who has made mistakes, who's rash, get red cards and silly moments in games, and ultimately cost us points, which is the most important thing. And there are players out there that are a little bit rash and they do make mistakes, but ultimately still do very good things, and over the majority are kind of respected for what they've done on the pitch and won't be necessarily remembered for some of the bad things that they've necessarily done. Xhaka, I still feel, will be remembered mostly for the errors that he's made, and especially for some of the controversial things that have happened on football pitches. Like we talk about Crystal Palace at last season in 2019, which is just a horrible moment. I was there in the ground, and it was disgusting from both him and I feel also from the fan base that were booing him as he walked off the pitch. But at the same time, we do need to move on, in my view, from these players that do make mistakes. And yes, as John points out, law of averages is he is eventually going to make an error. But I do feel like there are players that may make these errors, but you will get a better, higher quality performance from an upgraded talent, a different player, Yves Bissouma, for instance, next to Partey, than a Granit Xhaka. So the problem is, though, Adam, is that if you get rid of if you say sell Granit Xhaka and he's the midfielder you get rid of, and you keep what else we've got, which is El Neni, Guendouzi, who's coming back, I feel Xhaka's not the first on my list of centre midfielders that I'm moving on. I'm upgrading on El Neni, which, and I'm not saying the upgrade on El Neni has to be worse than Xhaka. The upgrade that we bring on El Neni has to be better, if not as good as what we've already got. And obviously, as good as Thomas Partey would be great because he's a fantastic player. But how does Arteta need to manage that situation in the summer? Because is it realistic to expect us to go sell Guendouzi, which is probably going to happen because Arteta doesn't like him, sell El Neni, sell Granit Xhaka, because then you have to replace them, sell Joe Willock, arguably, to Maitland-Niles, who can play in midfield, arguably, as well. Do you sell this many players? Is that actually, can you do that in a summer? And if not, what does he need to do? And is Granit Xhaka staying for another season the right way to go about it?
In my view, yes. Granit Xhaka staying is the right way to go about it. And I don't care who doesn't like me for saying it. I don't care who thinks I don't know football. But Granit Xhaka, and I still maintain it, is a good football player. I just don't think he's, until recently, had the right structure, the right setup around him in order to flourish. And we can see that because when he first came in, he was playing as a holding midfielder, like the Ndidi type role, and that's not Granit Xhaka. I don't think he will perform best there. You could then ask your questions as to why we bought him if we were going to play him there, and fair enough, that's on Wenger because he did that. But the fact of the matter is, he is a good player for what he does. He plays as captain for Switzerland. He scored goals at World Cups. He's scored crucial and important goals for us in big games. I can't speak highly enough of Granit Xhaka because when the going gets tough, he is always there standing up to be counted on. And I think his mentality is infectious. And that's the reason why not only Arsene Wenger, but Unai Emery, Freddie Ljungberg, and Mikel Arteta play this man week in, week out without fail. If he's fit, he plays. And I think people need to start understanding the game and I guess football more, because there's more to it than just making a mistake in the odd game here and there. And there are managers and there are statisticians that will look at the averages and say, well, he only makes as John said, he makes a mistake every season. I'll take my chances on that for the organization that he gives us in the build-up. But do I think that there are midfielders out there that would give us more quality? Of course I do. Because unless he's Sergio Busquets or flipping Frankie de Jong, he's not gonna, or we can always get someone who's better. So yes, I do believe that there is an argument to be had about selling Granit Xhaka. I do believe that we could spend £50 million on somebody and get someone better who would make less mistakes. But where Arsenal are at in their transition right now, I think that money could be spent better elsewhere to give, as I said right at the beginning, the right structure for a player like Xhaka to perform better. And I think once you do that, you begin to see the mistakes from his game become even more or even less frequent, as we've seen this season.
Despite this conversation, I disagree in the sense about money being spent elsewhere, because I personally, that's the first position I'm upgrading in the summer. For me, centre midfield, Thomas Partey's partner, is the number one role I'm upgrading on in the summer, because there's a number of reasons for that, and it's not down to what we talked about. Clearly, from what I've said, I have a lot of faith in Granit Xhaka, and I like it, the football aspect of Granit Xhaka a lot. It's just I look at Partey's injury record, and I look at what's been left, and it's how I feel other teams like West Ham, like Everton, like Villa are above us, because our midfield has been so weak for so much of this season, and how other teams are around us. I genuinely put the evidence as to why we're where we are in the league is a lot down to how weak our midfield has been. The key part of Arsenal's team wherever we've been in whatever kind of decade, I've always looked at as the midfield being the key bit of Arsenal's team, which makes it work. In the early teens, it was all about Santi Cazorla and how he pulled the strings from midfield. Prior to that, you're looking at the likes of Patrick Vieira, obviously, and prior to that, you're going back even further to the 70s and you're looking at players like Liam Brady. It's always been the centre of Arsenal's midfield that has driven and made the team tick and ultimately be a success. And that's where I look at. And that's why I'm so happy that we've got Arteta and Edu that recognised that area needed reinforcement. They went and got Thomas Partey, and it sucks that he's not been available for us this season. I'm more frustrated about that than I am about all of the poor officiating and the poor VAR decisions that have gone against us. Give me Thomas Partey for a full season over those decisions going our way, because I genuinely believe had Partey been available for us for this season, we would not be where we are right now, because every other team that is above us, people talk about squads being worse, but Thomas Souček walks into Arsenal's midfield. Alan and Decore have been excellent for Everton this season. Man United, Man City, Spurs with, I hate to talk about them in a positive way, but Højbjerg has been a fantastic revelation for them this season since signing from Southampton. The teams above us have looked at the midfields and they've done the work in those areas. And that's what's carried them through. Douglas Luiz has been brilliant for Aston Villa this season. It's all about the key midfielders in teams that push them up the table. And also, a lot of people laughed when we were linked to Jorginho in the summer. And I was one of those people that I'm not sure about bringing in Jorginho. But he obviously has been very key for Chelsea and getting them to points where they are. And I genuinely look at that and go, and actually, that might have been a bit of a savvy bit of business in the summer, had we, and taken them off a key rival. And I know we look at Chelsea's rejects, but Jorginho certainly wasn't a Chelsea reject. John, I know you want to come in on Xhaka, so go for it, mate.
Yeah, I think just to play devil's advocate here, because I think you're raising a lot of good points, and I think it's a debate that's actually a valid one that's worth having, especially considering, like you said, the history of Arsenal's midfield as the kind of defining feature of how we play football. And if that's what we're trying to get back to, then obviously you need to look at what's been going on in the midfield. So there's definitely validity to that. I guess the devil's advocate argument is, what is our goal? What are we trying to get out of this midfield? If the goal is to challenge for the league and everything, then yeah, I think that there's severely lacking quality in Granit. He is not Granit Xhaka is not a midfielder that's going to win you the league. It's not going to happen, right? But is he a midfielder that will challenge for top four and get us into those Champions League spots, possibly get us into a European final? He's already done both of those things. We've almost twice while he's been playing for us with a worse partner than Partey have gotten into 1 point off of top four, as well as when Wenger's when he finished fifth, we almost finished into the top four as well. Plus, he helped us get into a European final, and he's won 2 FA Cups with us. So, I think that when you're saying, look, there's some quality issues in the midfield, I think a lot of that was already addressed with Partey. And I agree, taking a fit Partey, I would take over whatever kind of decisions and all that stuff. But and I get this argument about what our goals need to be. I want to challenge for the league. I want to win the Champions League and all that stuff. But I think that when you're in a rebuild, I think it's baby steps. It really is baby steps. I don't think we're in the position, because we've been out of Europe for so long, that we can just splash the cash like a City or a Chelsea or a United, where we can immediately fix it, and all of a sudden now we're potentially title contenders, which arguably United were until Man City did their thing. So, but going back to my point is that when you're looking at what we have to do, I think that midfield partnership of Xhaka and Partey are enough to get into those top four, those Champions League positions, potentially get us to another final in a European Cup that can get us into the Champions League through another avenue. And if that's the case, then you have to consider what's important in a rebuild to get to that point. And consistency, being able to be selected week in, week out, leadership, consistency, and experience. Those are things that Xhaka has. So the devil's advocate position is, yes, I think that to get to the next level, we definitely need a better midfield pairing than Xhaka and Partey. It's a better partner for Partey. But to get into those positions where we now have not only the financial resources, but the pull that we're in all of a sudden in a major European competition like the Champions League, that we're fighting for the top four. Now all of a sudden we're in a better position to get players that can do that. So look, I get the argument, get rid of Xhaka, bring in someone else. But at the same, and one other thing, if we do that, and we kind of touched on this, we need to work on our backup midfielders, because there's no way that someone is going to be as vital, and when I say vital, it means the vitality of the player being selected week in and week out, as Xhaka is. They're going to get injured. We're going to have backup. So it's still going to be Partey and Elneny or whatever the backup is going to be. So yes, I think that it's a good point. I definitely can see upgrade is always better, right? Upgrade by definition is better than what we have. That's an easy argument. But when you look at our goals and what we need to do to get to that position, I think that you have to actually be realistic about what we need to get there and what we have that could potentially do that.
Yeah. Arsenal, I still look at Martin Keown talked about the fact that we're like 5 players away, like you get 5 or 6 different players in. I look at the team, I look at the positions. Granit Xhaka is a position that I feel that if you upgrade on that position, that's one of the ones I would pick. I still think that I look at that position and go, I get what Granit Xhaka does, and I've praised him for the work that he's done with the way that he passes into the left-hand channel, releasing Tierney, releasing whoever's the left winger in the game, and he does it really, really well. But I just feel like if you had a more mobile, energetic, kind of similar player to Partey next to him, it would just add so much more to what we have.
It totally would. And I'm not saying it wouldn't. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you can't upgrade Xhaka. I think you could, but there are certain avenues that you're going to lose out on. And there's like
I think you make up for that with where you bring in other positions.
Right. But and I think that's true. But I think that when you're considering this, and people are not going to like this, right? This comment I'm about to make. But if you're considering what we need to do, our main goal, in my opinion, is to get back into the Champions League. I imagine it's difficult. Our main goal, obviously, this overarching perfect worldview, is that we win the league and that we win the Champions League and all that stuff. But in order to win the Champions League, you got to be in it. So let's get there first. And I think Xhaka and Partey can get us there. And and the evidence is that we've almost done it with a worse partnership than Xhaka and Partey.
I see it.
Hector Soul says, haven't qualified for the Champions League since we signed Xhaka. What does that mean? We need far better players to guarantee us competing for that Champions League, let alone the league. And I find this a ridiculous argument, really, because to blame the fact that we've not, Aubameyang, since we signed Aubameyang, have we qualified for the Champions League? No. Is Aubameyang a bad player? No. It's a silly argument. It's about the recruitment as a whole, the direction that we've gone, the loyalty that some managers have kept, the lack of identifying the right positions up until now to sign players in. And when we have signed players in positions that we've necessarily needed, we've then misused them. I look at Torreira. We needed to bring a defensive midfielder in. Torreira came in, was a revelation when he joined it. Then suddenly all of a sudden Emery wants to play him in a number 10 role. I don't get it. Like we have managed things so poorly, and now we've got the coach that actually identifies we need to bring a centre midfielder, brings in Partey, need a centre back, brings in Gabriel and Pablo Mari on a permanent deal. I think both of them have been successes so far. That's what frustrates. Anyway, we're getting bogged down on that thing. There's a big thing that we need to talk about, of course, which was the penalty. Adam,
yes,
I got so angry about this. It was very clear on the Raw Reaction show yesterday how angry I was about this. And a lot of people have turned around and said that, we can't be relying on VAR to beat Burnley. And frankly, I don't care. I don't care. In some games, you do need these decisions to go your way. Sometimes Manchester City need a penalty to win a game, and they're still an amazing team. And throughout the season, you are, in games that you're expected to win, going to need certain things to go your way. And in this particular game, it just didn't.
Yep. It's ridiculous. And I can't look at the comments anymore because I've just seen someone say that Aubameyang is a good player. So
we were doing so well for a while.
Chatbox, you kill me.
Get it back together. I just commented on it.
Did he get to 50 goals quicker than Thierry Henry?
You know what? Doesn't matter. He's not a good player anyway. So who the hell cares? Anyway, I just don't know. I don't know. VAR, brilliant when it gets decisions right. But the fact of the matter is, like the rules of handball change depending on the referee. And I don't want to play a game which is subjective, or be watching a game being played at an elite professional level, which is subjective. If I want that, I can go to the flipping park and I can 2-foot my friend and then say it's not a foul, it's street rules football. Because it just turns everything into a farce. If my arm is here, it's handball. That happened in a Champions League final with Musa Sissoko, but yet we've got a player who's plays for Fulham, his arm's down here, it's not a handball. I honestly, I couldn't tell you what's going on top. I do not know what the handball rule is, what it's changing to, or why it leads to such outcry, or why there needs to be such outcry for there to be a change. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I'm sorry.
John, I'll let you go for gold on your views on it.
It's despicable. It's a joke already. It's
good word.
It's despicable. It is absolute. Look, it is a dereliction of whatever duty they think they have as professionals getting paid and earning a living doing something. It's unreal. Anyone else who was that incompetent at their jobs would lose it. And it's week in and week out, and it's absolutely mind-bogglingly frustrating. And I'll tell you another thing. It is so annoying that week in and week out, our dialogue and narrative is so heavily inundated with refereeing decisions. If you are not invisible, for the most part, you are doing your job wrong as a referee. You just need to be calling, like in American sports, calling the balls and strikes, all right? When the game becomes about you, I can't tell you how many times last season, and it's increasing in frequency, it seems like, where the story is about the ref. And that can't happen. And it's disgusting. And it seems to happen to us all the time. And if you just have to look at the last game, the mental gymnastics that need to be implemented for you to argue that is not a handball is something that I don't think anyone in their right mind would be able to do with a straight face, which is exactly what Arteta said. He said, if that's not a handball, someone needs to explain to me what a handball is in this league, because it's a handball. The guy had his hand in unnatural position, moving towards the ball. I saw a ref that was commenting on it saying, oh, well, he didn't have enough time to react. But that first one in that picture that you put up right there, same situation, but his hand's at his side, and that's a handball. He didn't have enough time to react because he made himself as big as he can. You know who does that? Goalies. Goalkeepers do that.
He didn't. This is what I had an argument with the head content guy at WhoScored.com. I say argue. It wasn't an argument. He tweeted out saying that he thought that it was the right decision that the handball wasn't given, because he said that his arm was already in an outstretched position and he's kicked out his arm.
That's a rule. That's a handball.
I said, I'm sorry. But just the fact that his arm is already outstretched, and because it's supposedly a natural, I'm sorry, it doesn't matter. And he said, well, why is his arm out there? He's not exactly waving to someone in the crowd, is he? And I said, no, he's trying to, and I understand why he was putting his arm out there. He's trying to make himself as big as possible. You're coached to make yourself look as big as possible. I get that. But the thing is you can do that, but by putting your arms out there, you are taking a risk. You're taking a risk that the ball is going to hit your arm. And I don't know if you've tried this. Feel free to jump downstairs in your living room, get some space, and just sidestep across the room, because I don't find myself flailing my arms out like the Jesus Christ statue in Rio de Janeiro at all when I'm sidestepping. And yet for some reason his arms are outstretched and it hits his arm. And that's what's so frustrating is that, John, the one we talked about in the example I threw up on the screen there, I'll throw it up on again, was the Fulham Spurs example. Now, in the rules, they have to disallow that goal in the first instance. Like, it is handball by the letter of the law, because it directly leads to a goal going in. And that's the rule that they've put in place. And then the rule is, for this one, they've justified it by saying that that the proximity is the main issue with that. We can't have two separate handball rules. That cannot exist. It doesn't matter if this is the rules or not. It's just, it doesn't make any sense for the handball to be, in one sense, your handball can be, the ball can hit your arm in one area of the pitch and it's handball, and in another area of the pitch, it's not handball. That makes no sense.
It makes no sense. And I think an overarching issue here is exactly that. Not only just inconsistency, but accountability and transparency with the refereeing. So the officials here have no accountability whatsoever. I haven't seen anything. I was on Danny's podcast, and we were talking about like why that is, and his theory was that there's this kind of notion in kind of English culture in general that that politicians whatever are almost unaccountable, and it's in my country too. That this notion that I'm not going to get into the political discussion, but I'm just saying that it's like there is this kind of thing, and it's there with the referees as well. Like, when was the last time that we've seen a referee like severely admonished for getting something that wrong? We've seen managers who've making bad decisions, coaches who've made bad decisions, made mistakes, and had to publicly apologize for it. Why is it any different for a ref? Why is there no and why is the oversight that a ref is going through not more transparent? Look at Australian football. Look at rugby, where they actually have to, when they're reviewing penalties, when they're doing the VAR, you can actually hear the discussions that they're having. Why can't we have that? What is so difficult? Like, the technology is there. We should be able to see what these decisions are. And if there's one that's completely wrong, there needs to be repercussions. And if someone's consistently doing it, there needs to be even further repercussions. And not only do there need to be repercussions, I think that you need to be more transparent about the procedure for those, whatever the due process is, and the results and outcome of any kind of determination there. Because we as fans who spend so much money and time and emotion and life into this sport that we love so much, we deserve to know and make sure that it's being conducted in a way that's and the money that's in the Premier League. You would think that the refereeing quality is on par with the rest of the world, and it's like hilariously not, and it needs to change. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox now, but it's a joke already. It's a joke already.
You stay on that soapbox.
I
think the thing for me is that it reminds me of a school, like a boarding school with these old archaic traditions that are meant to be unquestionable. I think the Premier League doesn't like managers or players coming out and talking about referees because it undermines the entire thing, which in theory
undermine themselves.
In theory, I understand, but as John says, they undermine themselves when they make stupid decisions that appear to contradict each other, and the rules change from week to week. But I think a lot of people would have more respect, and the Premier League referees would have far more credibility if they were to come out and say, do you know what, guys? This guy's got it wrong. He needs to go through training again. Or this referee, he's going to be demoted to the Championship for a couple of games just so he can get back up to speed. In the same way that players can be dropped, referees should be able to be dropped. And I do believe that would make people say, you know what, fair enough. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Even VAR, which is meant to eradicate it, we make mistakes. But it would at least show that they're trying to do something about it. But for right now, it seems like this big, gargantuan beast that can never be questioned and shouldn't be questioned because we are the Premier League and what we say goes. Yeah. And I don't think that's the way to run any organization.
And instead of admitting you made a mistake, to jump through hoops to kind of justify something that like you can't even say with a straight face that, well, you know, the proximity, like what? Are you kidding? Like, that's such a poor argument. Like, no. This was a bad decision. It was wrong. Come out and say it, and then have some transparency and accountability. Why is that so difficult? Why is that so difficult? We have it for players. We have it for managers. We have it for owners, billionaire owners, but we don't have it for the refs.
Ours isn't.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion. But my point is that there needs to be more for the refs. They have such an impact on the game, and there's the refs have more of an impact on football than in a lot of other sports because of the red card. Because they could take a player out of the game. Like in hockey, you could do that, but you just go into the sin bin, or in rugby, you go into the sin bin, and then you can come back out. There, you're out of the game. You're playing with 10 men now. The power they have to change the decision in a game is extremely immense. And the response, you know, like with great power comes great responsibility. Well, there also needs to be transparency and accountability. Yeah. So you know, ode to Uncle Ben there, because you know he was totally right there, and we need to apply that same logic to these refs because it's ruining the game. It really is, and it's sad.
Wow, I never thought we'd start quite a Marvel, but we have. We've gone.
I've been on a Marvel kick. I've been watching like all the things. So.
Have you watched WandaVision yet? I finished it the other day.
I haven't finished it yet. I'm going
you're going through the films for the first time?
No. This is the first time I've watched it like kind of like binge watching the whole thing every day. I'm watching like a different movie. So anyway, that was just in there.
No, that's fine. Any tangent that goes to anything Marvel or drum and bass is absolutely fine. But I mean,
I'll keep that in mind.
So I don't want to linger on the handball thing. We could go on about it for hours. I want to go for about 15 more minutes and then jump to you guys in the chat box, because I feel like this final section before we do go to questions is important to ask this question, because there's a lot of people that are exceptionally frustrated with where Arsenal are right now, where we are in the league, with what we've done this season, with the manager, with everything. And I titled today's podcast, Where To Now? Because I think it is important to think about where we are in the table, because despite obviously things and how I feel about things with a lot of things going against us, we are 10th in the league. There are 6 teams between us and where we want to be. Although obviously a lot of people want to be in first position, obviously, but where a lot of people feel we should be competing for, which is 4th place. There's a lot of teams between us and them, and there's 33 points for us still to get this season, which, I mean, if we were to get all 33, which is unlikely, we're still finishing on 71, which is far off what we have finished on in previous seasons still, and that's if we win every single game. So, Adam, the question is where do we go now? How do you feel about the position that where we are in the league? A lot of people feel that to finish in this position or in and around this position is a sackable offence. So how do you feel about where we are right now?
If Arteta wasn't manager and Edu wasn't in the position that he is, then yes, I would argue it is a sackable offence.
So why, with Arteta there, do you feel that it's not that case?
I think also, given the fact that COVID has happened, he has more of a...
Every team's had COVID, Adam. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
I get that you are. But I think he's in his first season, he's won an FA Cup, which isn't something that a lot of managers have done. Even Pep Guardiola, with the blank checkbook that he hasn't managed to do it. So I think he's set his stall out well and has proven that he can coach and manage if given the time, space, resources to do so. So I think that has bought him time. And I think Eddie will look at that and say, do you know what? I can see you're a man that knows what to do. You have ideas, but you need the right structure to do so. So I'm going to help you realize your vision. I do think that 10th makes for horrible reading. But I also think that the congested schedule, fixture list, or whatever you want to call it, has made a rod for Arteta's back. And I think if he had more time to coach, which we know that he is quite good at, I think you would see a better improvement in more players. And I think that would reflect itself in Arsenal's position in the table. But I think the fact that it's all been congested, everything's been piled together, he hasn't had the time to drill the players as well as he'd like, which means that Arsenal are 10th, which means that Arteta is a really bad manager. But it just means it hasn't had the time. He hasn't had the time to actually do what he is good at, in my opinion. So that's why he's 10th. And if I was Edu, I wouldn't be sacking him, because I think there's more to come from Arteta. But I'm an Arteta apologist, right?
Yeah, no, sorry. Yeah. I'm just going to remain quiet for a bit. John, Everton are sitting in 5th. West Ham are above us in 7th. They're 7 points above us. Spurs are 7 points above us, and we obviously play them next weekend. Aston Villa, who we sold our goalkeeper to, are above us, and they've got a game in hand by 2 points. Do these teams have better squads than us? And if not, why are they above us? And why have you frozen? Oh, no, you're fine now. You're fine.
No, I was thinking. Do they have better squads than us? I think some of them in certain areas, yeah. I don't think overall they necessarily do. I think that I think really we started to see a kind of upturn in our performances kind of late on. I mean, you have to consider that, and this isn't an excuse, it's kind of an explanation. Look at our main goal scoring threat this entire first half of the season was Aubameyang, and he couldn't even get a goal to save his life. So there was a lot of things that were kind of hampering us. Whereas, and look, you could put that on the manager. I ultimately think at the end of the day, everything falls on the manager. That's just part of the job, unfortunately. You know, if the team's not playing well, it's because you're not doing your job right to get them to play well. And yeah, I get it that there's an aspect of you can only work with what you have, but on paper, I think we could be doing a lot better than we are in certain circumstances. It was no surprise to me that we started getting some form together based off of the players that we had. So that being said, I think finishing 10th, while I get the argument of why maybe it would be a sackable offense and we're out of Europe, and it would actually be a really, really dangerous financial situation to be in, and just in general a situation to be in. But I think when you're looking at the kind of cleaning house that went on over the winter window, getting all of these wages off the book, I truly believe, and I'm hoping I'm right on this, that there's going to be a gearing towards fixing the squad that Arteta wants to see happen. And we've heard talk about how it's not the squad that he wants. You know, that there was a quote that he said, you know, like, this is a percentage of the squad that I want. So for me, it's almost like an intellectual curiosity to see what an Arteta squad actually looks like, because it could be very exciting or it could not work out. right? And I think it's going to be it's going to be very telling to see the moves that we are not only make, but really are conditioned on the ability that we have to make them based off of our position and whether we're in Europe or not. So for me, I'm in like a wait and see kind of a thing. I'm not Arteta out or anything like that, if that's even a thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Look, I mean, that doesn't surprise me, but I feel like I would get the consternation. I would get the frustration with finishing 10th and being out of Europe. I'd be really upset with that. But I really want to see what Arteta can do with a squad that he puts together, because that, the entire time when Arteta signed, it was this excitement over what it could be. It was this, kind of under the tutelage of these great managers, and he had all this potential, and people were talking about him and his kind of footballing mind and everything like that. I still want to see what he can do with the resources at his disposal. If we have a team and we're looking at it and we're going, this is Arteta's team on paper, and we're still, it's the same stuff, right? And we're still struggling. We're mid-table. We're not challenging or anything like that. At that point, it's like, look, you have no excuse, all right? Maybe you just weren't ready for this position. Maybe you were, it just didn't work out, whatever the reasons are, and we'll address them at the time as the case comes by. But going into that, I want to see what he can do. I want to see what he can do with a team that he can't look at and say, oh, well, I don't have the players I need anymore.
Yeah.
I want to see that. It's a little bit selfish, but I want to see what that looks like before I can really pass judgment on him as a manager. Yeah.
So here's my point of view. I'm very much aligned with you two. I think for people that get obviously very frustrated with this being, as we've described at times, as an echo chamber, hopefully tomorrow will be an interesting chat, because I'm going to be talking to Sophie from the Highbury squad at 9 o'clock. Me and Sophie have very, very different views about the current state of the club, so make sure you tune in for that tomorrow evening. But to kind of set out my stall about where I am, I know a lot of people know where I am, and I'm still very much I really want to kind of push forward with this and as John says, see where it goes, because I've seen things, and I know I harp on about this, but I can't help but reiterate it over and over again. That's the fact that I've seen things happen in the last year that I've not seen this club do in a decade or more. I've not seen a coach identify the positions that we've needed and go out and sign a world-class centre midfielder, a top-class centre-back. I've not seen that happen. I've not seen us compete more competitively in these games against top six sides. I've not seen us go to Old Trafford and play in an industrious way and win in a really savvy, kind of horribly cheap way. But that's sometimes what you need to do in the Premier League. And I've not seen us do that, and we haven't done it since 2006. Obviously, we won in a more stylish way in 2006. But the point is that we've not competed in those games. I've not seen us do so many of the things. There are a lot of things that are still lingering on from previous eras at the club, previous problems. And a lot of that is down because there's a lot of the still same players that were around during those times. And on that, I've seen this coach move out a lot of the problem players that have been here, and I have faith that will continue into next summer. The issue with Arsenal is that, for me, no coach could come in at this stage and change our fortunes dramatically. Could someone have come in at the same time Arteta done a better job? Probably. That's the honest answer. Someone probably could have done a better job than Arteta. It's not a point that we're going to talk about right now, because we've got Arteta, and I feel that he started off by doing some good things, and that if that gradually builds upon with further good things, it will turn around. The issue is with the club is that we have regressed over the last 3 or 4 years and longer than that. And we are at a point where, whilst we've been regressing, other teams have been improving, and you don't change dramatically by bringing in 2 good players in the summer. You need a lot more than that, and that will happen gradually. So I get where we are is not good enough, and I understand that, and I really get the frustrations of people, but I am willing to I'm willing to give it a year, because I feel that if we've not progressed in a year's time after we've made more changes this summer, there is legitimate cause to go, I don't think it's working. And I will sit here and go, after that amount of time, I think there is now enough evidence to have a much more rounded conclusion about where we have moved. If we have progressed and we are competing more for top 4 positions, we might not be in the top 4, but we are within points of competing at this point of the season, much closer than we are now. And by the way, we're still only 9 points away right now, which is still hilarious. It's just that league position is big for people.
Yeah.
I'm going to go now to questions in the chat. We've got quite a few, guys, and I don't want to keep you too much more of your time.
No, we're good. We're good.
If we can get through as many of them as possible, that would be fantastic. Alistair Brawns says, John, next season purchase priority is it for you a striker or is it at right back?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think that we definitely need some quality on both. I would like to see us get a right. Sorry, I would like to see us get a right back though. I think that
pressure on who?
Oh man. Okay, no, I'm gonna go with striker because I'm already ready. I'm already ready for someone that I think we can get on striker, and it's Edouard. I think I think he would be an excellent addition to the side from Celtic. So I'm gonna go with striker because I have an answer to the follow-up question over here.
Again, cheating.
Yeah.
Well, John, what you could do, and you could go out and you could read some. I mean, there might be someone out there who did an article on 5 right backs that Arsenal could sign. If only someone had done that. I'll
wait for the tactical breakdown.
Ansgar Wagner says, Adam, do we give Lacazette the 10 and a 3-year contract?
The answer is no, Ansgar. Absolutely not. Lacazette does not deserve the 10 and a 3-year contract. No way, Jose. I'm really sorry, sir.
I got the hard question.
You're selling, I'm assuming, Adam, in the summer.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I would keep him, let him run down his contract, but the position that we're in, yeah, let's get the money for him. Sorry, Laka.
Fair enough. Craig Barlow, John, says, if Xhaka and El Neni were sold, who realistically could we get in the summer? Oh, there's lots of these.
I mean, realistically, look, I don't want to not answer the question, but it really depends on, are we in Europe? How do we end up finishing in the league, and what is Arteta actually going to be prioritizing in terms of? I don't think Xhaka and El Neni will both be sold in the summer, so I don't think that we're going to ever have to make the decision. But assuming we did, and assuming, I mean, it really is difficult to say. We're going to have to get a player who's going to be able to fill a certain role, like kind of a deep lying playmaker type role. What was the one? I forget. Is the Dutch player? It starts with the K. What's his name? I can't right now.
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. Yeah.
Who's he play for?
Hold on, I'll pull his name up right now. Him. I think that he would be a good one. Yeah, no. Whatever. Point is, it depends on. I'll get back to you.
Midfielder. Oh, Coop Miners.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be a very, because if we get rid of Xhaka, and Drew actually kind of brought this up in our chat, and I didn't really know much about the player, so I started looking into him a little bit, and I think it's a very similar type of player to Xhaka, but not in the ways that are bad. You know what I mean? Like there's some of that mobility that he has a little bit more 2-footed. So it seems like, at least right now, that Xhaka is kind of key to the way we play. So if we're going to continue, sorry, this is a long answer.
No, it's fun.
Yeah, this is a long, but he's kind of key to the way we play. So if we find someone to replace him, I think there needs to be a kind of almost a like for like replacement. And I think that to keep playing the way we want, because I do think that's how Arteta wants to play. So yeah.
Interestingly, I was very much on the point of view that Arsenal need to look at kind of a younger player profile, but weirdly, like, Arsenal got a lot of young kids coming through. Yeah. Like you look at this season, Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe that have come through. Martinelli obviously is in the background. You've got other young players in the other side of things coming through. Mavropanos, Saliba are both coming back from a loan deal. We arguably will need to replace our right back. That could be of a younger player. But what we could look to do is, in some positions like centre midfield, we've got a 27, turning 28-year-old Thomas Partey. We could get someone in their prime, I feel, in centre midfield. We could get a mid-20s, 25, 26, 27-year-old striker in to replace Alexandre Lacazette. I think there is scope for Arsenal not to just go down the young route, because I do think we need people that are going to come in and have an immediate impact next season. We signed Gabriel, who was still a prospect in a way, 22 years old when we signed him. He's not the finished article, and he will improve. We've signed Pablo Mari as a really good competitive option at left centre-back. We've got young centre-backs coming through, and we've still got Holding, who's moving into his prime too. I genuinely believe Arsenal's squad is in a position with those players that we talked about, that if you add 2 or 3 prime in going into their top part of their careers, it could really change the way that Arsenal play. And I think that you can look at certain positions of the pitch, right back, centre mid, and striker. If Arsenal can get a really good right back, a really good centre mid, and a really good striker, I genuinely think you're looking at next season going, we're in a much stronger position.
Oh,
we're winning the league. It's just so easy.
I mean, we're going to win this season, so we're good.
Yeah. Now, Adam Ian says, what realistically this board is going to offer to Arteta financially if we don't secure any European football?
Ian, thank you for the question, sir. Okay. The real answer is I don't know. I'm going to pretend that I do. I think the fact that Arsenal have taken out a loan makes me think that cash is not easy to come by. I think Arsenal are, if not the highest club or one of the top two anyway, that gets the majority of their money from sort of match day revenue. So I think that's obviously impacted our funds as well. So I think we'll have to end up selling to buy. And so I think ultimately you can answer your question by thinking about how much we will get for the players that we sell. Obviously, it doesn't look like he fancies Guendouzi. Doesn't look like he fancies Torreira either. Bellerin could be going. But then all of those players will probably get a lower value than we'd ordinarily get for them anyway. So, yeah, I think ultimately we'll probably have maybe 70 to 80 million pounds to play with. That's assuming we get rid of all of the players that we want to get rid of. And if we don't, I think we're probably looking at maybe 40 to 50. I
think that this summer we will spend more. I think we're in a better position this summer than we were last summer. A couple of reasons for that. The players that we signed this summer, Gabriel, cost us around £25 million. A lot of that, only a small percentage was paid last season, and we will pay a bit of that. Thomas Partey was paid outright last season. We've still got obviously players like Pepe that we got to pay for in installments, and other players too. But we didn't actually spend a lot necessarily last summer. We also last summer didn't make a lot of money. The only money that we kind of made was from Emi Martinez's sale to Aston Villa. This season and this summer coming up, we've got players to sell like Lacazette, as you've already talked about there, Adam. You've got the likes of Bellerin, Torreira, Guendouzi. You've also got some of the players that are on the periphery that are the younger core, like Nketiah, Reece Nelson, Joe Willock. These guys, I think there is much more of a scope this summer for Arsenal to make a fair amount of money on player sales in comparison to last summer. So I'm more optimistic about this window. I also believe the amount of players that we got off the wage bill, including the likes of Mesut Ozil in January, is going to really help with us financially. So I would be hugely disappointed if Arsenal didn't end up spending more money this summer than we saw last, even with the impact of the pandemic. The loan that we took out was to deal with that. And so hopefully we'll be funded also with injection from the ownership as well, as we have seen. So I am optimistic about the summer, and I'm hoping that the manager gets backed. I said we'd go through these pretty quickly, and we're failing drastically so far.
These are great questions.
John Peter Renner says, if we can get them or players like them, would a midfield of Partey, Xhaka, and adding maybe a Basuma or a Wepu be good enough for us to get into the top four plus other additions?
So yeah, because I kind of alluded to that a little bit earlier when I said I think a midfield of Partey and Xhaka, despite kind of what I think the majority opinion on them is, are good enough to get us into the top four, especially that last part plus other additions. So on paper, I think that we're better. We almost made it into top four with a worse team. So it would be kind of weird to say that we can't get in the top four with a better team. And obviously right now there's been a lot of issues and, the pandemic and all that stuff. I don't know if that's an excuse or an explanation, but the answer is, yeah, I think that we could. I think we absolutely could. And it's really that comes down to Arteta. Can he do it throughout the whole season? Can he manage the team in a way? And, a little bit of luck. There's always a little bit of luck in this, but sometimes you make your own luck, right? So it really depends on how he utilizes the players throughout the whole season, how we rotate if we're in different competitions. There's a lot of factors involved, but ultimately the answer is yes. Especially if we make a great addition like Basuma, who I think is an excellent player and would absolutely add quality to the midfield. That wouldn't hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matt G says, Adam, how many more times this season will we say the words, "This is a must-win game"?
I think, Matt, that kind of depends on your expectations. There are no more must-win games for me. for this season, because I think I'm willing to just let Arteta do what he wants to do. And to tell you a dirty little secret, I don't even really want Europa League next season. So which I know John doesn't agree with. I'm not sure how Tom feels.
I think it's win-win. I think it's win. I can see the benefits of getting it and the benefits of not having it. I think if we get Europa League, the worst thing that can happen is if we qualify for the Europa Conference. That's what I don't want to qualify for.
So I don't think that's an unreasonable position, Adam. And I actually kind of had that when we first were like in Europa. I was like, I'd be cool if we weren't in this anymore. I have since changed my opinion on that. I think it would be
because of the Champions League prize,
and because of how long we've been out of the Champions League and the effect I've seen on the financial side of things. It would just be real bad if we're not in Europe.
I get it, but in answer to Matt's question, it depends on how you feel, bro. So
that's
Yannick says, John, what were all of your goals and expectations at the start of the season?
So my goals and expectations were to see a change in the attitude of the team and to actually see an improvement and actually a discernible style of how we play. That was kind of...
Has that been achieved?
Yes and no. I think we're seeing a lot of tinkering right now. I think Arteta is trying to figure out what the hell to do with this group of players that he has right now. And he has some extremely talented ones and these young, exciting players, and he's doing a lot of cool stuff with them. And it's starting to see like, okay, I can rely on this player, I can rely on that player, and that takes a little bit of time. So my goal was my expectation was that we would be better than 10th, right? But we're in the knockout rounds of Europe. I can't really complain about that. I figured we'd make a little bit more of a run in the FA Cup, considering we were the cup holders. We didn't really do that. We're not like completely off of that like top 6 area in terms of point tally, but that's as much to do with how we played as well as how crappy other teams have played, and how kind of like volatile that top 10 is right now. So it was whatever expectations I had were kind of like very, very reserved. And even then there were some points where I've been a little bit disappointed, but look, it is what it is. And there's always Europe, and then there's always next season as well. So
yeah, I mean, Jasha also says, Tom, what should have we expected this season? We finished 8th last year, and we bought in Willian, Gabriel, Runnison, Partey, and got in 2 loans to get back into the Europe and win the Europe. I mean, it's a really hard thing. Adam, I'll let you go first, and then I'll give you my thoughts. What were your kind of expectations? In a way, expectations are a weird word, because in football we talk about things in terms of targets as well and what we should be achieving. What should, in your view, have Arsenal achieved this season in the context of the pandemic, the other teams that are in the situation, and how they're doing? What were your targets for this year?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Yannick and Jashar, if you had asked me at the beginning of the season where I thought Arsenal were going to finish, I would have looked you dead in your eyes and said top 4 with a straight face. And again, hindsight, wonderful thing. We realize how stupid that sounds. But where should Arsenal have been finishing as a minimum expectation at the start of the season? I would have told you top 6. And I would have told you anything outside of that was a bit of a failure. However, I look at how Jurgen Klopp has struggled to deal with a high number of injuries. Granted, Arsenal haven't had that many, but if a world-class experienced manager like Jurgen Klopp can struggle so much, I guess it's only fair that Arteta can struggle a little bit too. So yeah, I'm not going to use it as a stick to beat him with. And I think whilst I was expecting top 6, yeah, the guy's learning on the job, and as Tom said, I'll wait to see what he does when the squad is in his image.
My target was just to see change. Whatever that change was kind of open to interpretation. Now, I know it's the savvy amongst you might say, yeah, we've seen change, Tom. We're now a mid-table team. That might be the change that some people say. I don't see it that way. I look at the Premier League as a very different landscape to what it was even 2 years ago. I look at the Premier League as a very different environment, the money that's been spent by other teams, of how successfully other teams have recruited. And I just have a very much more kind of broad view of things. And the expectation of Arsenal, the football club, and the expectations of Arsenal, the company are obviously two very different things. I also think the expectations of what Arsenal is in general and what you think of and what outside influences would think of Arsenal as is different to the reality of it. A lot of people, and still quite rightly, I don't think it's wrong for people to say that Arsenal shouldn't be a top 4 team. I wrote about it this morning saying that we pay one of the highest, if not the highest ticket prices in the league to go to games. We've got a very, very rich owner. We're one of the richest clubs in the world still. We should be doing better than we are. Like on paper is what the term we always use. But my expectation is to see change. I'm seeing change. I'm seeing us do better things outside of the pitch. Things on the pitch aren't as good as I'd like them to be. There are some things I think we're doing better. Defensively, I think we're better against big sides in the league, which has always been kind of our Achilles heel. I think we're doing better. But we have sacrificed some areas and things that have regressed, unfortunately, like picking up points in games that we should pick up points in, for instance. That has gone backwards a bit. And it might be a case of what's good about the toughest thing in the Premier League is actually winning the games against the top 6 sides. That's what ultimately you look at the likes of La Liga and the Bundesliga. If you want to beat the big teams, if you want to do an Atletico Madrid, for instance, you do that by beating the teams that are around you, are competing for the same goals as you. That's the difference maker. And if you don't manage to do that, you're not going to be up there. So it's an easier task for Arsenal to change to a side that can compete against those sides, but we need to beat the sides that we should be beating, and we've not managed to do that this season, and that's going to change, hopefully. But I look at that as an easier thing to tweak than the problem we have had at beating the big sides, John.
Yeah, and just to kind of put a cherry on top there, I think that ultimately whatever expectations I had were not met, unfortunately. And I don't think that there were unreasonable expectations. And I think that from that perspective, I think there's a lot of criticism that is valid. Where it becomes a little bit more different is what you're willing to put up with to get to a particular place. Are failed expectations expected in a rebuild? Yeah, it's not going to be perfect all the time. Sometimes it can be, and and sometimes it isn't. The problem is that once we get to that place, like my expectations for next season are more than my expectations were for this season, and we didn't meet the expectations for this season. So if you don't meet them again when they're higher,
you're in trouble.
Yeah, like they're going up, like and they're going up because I'm basically saying, listen, this season is almost, I don't want to call it a write-off, but like it is that transition, that awkward teenage phase of the team in their transitional period into a team that maybe is a little bit more refined. I wish we could skip that. It looks like Everton's kind of skipped that to a certain extent.
I think they've done that though by, if you look at the signings they made, they brought in Alan, Decore, and James Rodriguez, three players that are they are good signings, but they're 3 players that, as I said about the summer that we've got coming up, they're 3 players that are going to have impact immediately. They're in their prime, they're in the top of their game, and they're coming in. Ben Godfrey was obviously a different end of that scale, and he's going to come in and do better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And ultimately, and listen, the reality of the situation is Ancelotti is a much more experienced manager than Arteta. It's a fact. He just is. Yeah. He just is. And that's not a slight on Arteta. That's just the reality of the situation. That's part of it. And I get that, like Adam said, Arteta's learning on the job. So that's why this season, even though it didn't meet my expectations, like, okay, let's see what you've learned. Let's see you put it together. You got another season to do it. I'm not going to give him another one after that in my head. I think if it's the same kind of thing where we're failing to meet expectations, albeit they're higher because they need to be. Because now you've had a summer, you've gotten rid of the dead weight, you've seen what your kind of players can do. You're not going to get this is his team, but he still doesn't know his best. No. It's not going to fly anymore. So that's a lot on Arteta, and it's not good enough that we haven't met the expectations that I put out.
Gooner Eagle Eye, our good friend Chig, of course, you can find on Twitter. Thank you for joining us in the chat, mate. Says 9 points away from top 4, but a lot of teams in between. Let's stop qualifying our renewed targets with points only. It's an interesting topic, kind of the fact that we are obviously 10th and that we are still what's up. I mean, we have been at this stage, weirdly, Arsenal have been 9 points off top 4 at this stage of the season and still qualified for top 4 in the past. It has happened. And weirdly, it's a weird position because, yes, you've got a lot of teams ahead of you, but that does mean that a lot of those teams we have got to play and they've got to play each other, which opens up the possibility of points being taken off one another, as you've seen with Chelsea and Liverpool this week, and Everton and Liverpool previously, and Leicester and that dropping points too, and us taking points off Leicester. It's going to happen. I think that there's a lot of football still to play, Adam, at the end of the day. Like, there is 33 points still to play for. We've got Spurs next week. That is a massive, massive game. It's annoying that they're coming good at a very obvious time. But we're at home, and it's a game in which we need to change. Like, the record of Arsene Wenger against Jose Mourinho was terrible. I'm not sure he even beat him in a league game. If Arteta can win that game, I think it would really give the side a boost of encouragement and that. We were asked earlier on, every game up to the end of the season, is it a must-win game? But is that game for you now a must-win game?
I think that one could be billed as a must-win game, even with the lowest of expectations. Purely, if for nothing else but bragging rights, I think to be able to, as you say, change the psychology, change the mentality of the players to say, all right, this is our toughest or one of the toughest games on our run in our toughest game of the season. What can we do if we manage to string 2-3 wins together? So yeah, I think this one I could easily classify as a must-win game, and I just hope that Arteta manages to galvanize the team to win.
John, talk to me about your thoughts and opinions about North London Derby.
North London Derby is always a must-win for me, in my opinion. I don't care where we are in the table. I don't care where I don't care where they are in the table. It doesn't really matter. I don't care if they haven't won a trophy, which they haven't. This is a game, especially against the Spurs side with Jose Mourinho as the manager. Like, we gotta beat those. We gotta beat them. And I know it's like doesn't really do much in the overarching picture of things, but there's certain things that you can't just give up as an Arsenal fan just because we're in a rebuild. And like, losing to Spurs is one of those things you just can't give up on, and it just can't be accepted ever. And it's one of those games where like you got to get up. The players have to be like fired up, and like to know for a fact that there's no excuse to not be fired up for a North London Derby. Should be. I don't care if it's sandwiched between two even probably more important games for the future of the club. Like, we got to win the North London Derby. That's just in my opinion as an Arsenal fan. They're probably not looking at it like that, But
let me give you a proposition. So we got Olympiacos as well on Thursday. If I said to you, we win that game 5-0 with 5 away goals.
I didn't know where this is going.
But we lose the NLD.
Why? I don't, man. I mean,
He's basically asking the question. What is
you're
more
right.
important
You're
for our
right.
season?
You're right.
Which one game?
I mean, Olympiacos ultimately in the bigger picture of things, but I think they're both there. But it doesn't need. I don't see why it needs to be one or the other. I think that
we win 5-0 and still go.
We can win 5-0 and then still beat, But look, I mean, obviously and that's the way that the club are going to look at it, right? They're going to have Arteta's going to look at this as, we have to win to keep our European hopes alive. But then he's got to also be. It's difficult because he's also saying like, look, we also got to beat Spurs and then go back and play Olympiacos again. I think we need to just blow Olympiacos away, which is so when you're that's not fair because that's not really what the question was. Is the North London Derby a must win?
Important.
Well, Olympiacos for the bigger picture of things, but I still don't want to lose the North London Derby. I can't.
If Arsenal win the Europa League, for me, it just wipes off the league season. Like, I don't give a crap what happened in the league. A lot of trying not to swear, but like a lot of crap happened to us this season, in my view. If we win that, it's mental. Like, it would be like finishing fourth, effectively. Like, and I know that a lot of people would turn around and say, but we didn't, and it was a case of winning the Europa League. But it does. It basically gives you. It would be huge. Like, I can't understate how massive winning the Europa League would be for Arsenal.
This is why I was dreading drawing Spurs, because if we draw Spurs, there'd be 3 North London derbies in a week. Back to back. I couldn't handle that.
Now, as a drum and bass fan, I love when you see the words back to back because it's usually between 3 great artists. But when it's a North London derby back to back, no, I'm not too keen on that. Anyway, I'm going to be the most annoying man in the world and ask both of you for a prediction. And in the chat box, if you could get your predictions ready for both games we've got coming up this week before the next podcast. And sorry, John, I didn't realize you were that angry.
I hate losing the Spurs, man. I hate losing the Spurs.
I can tell you what the boys are thinking. That next podcast, which is on the 15th, which I believe is Monday. It is indeed. So on the 15th of March, I'll be joined after the Spurs game by Drew, Johnny Cochran, and Raf are going to be on for that show. And on Tuesday this week, on Tuesday, I'm going to be joined by Drew for our Let's Talk Arsenal show. Me and John will be around at some point this month for the next Let's Talk Arsenal podcast. We will arrange that at some point this month too. Adam, I'm going to come to you first. Olympiacos and Spurs, what are your two predictions, mate?
Olympiacos, we win in a KG 2-1 victory. I think we make it more uncomfortable than it needs to be. Spurs, you know what? No, Spurs, we win. We win.
Oh God,
2-0. We win 2-0. Yeah. No, we don't. No. We win it 3-2. We win it 3-2 because there's no way that we're keeping a clean sheet. Absolutely not. 3-2 against. Boom.
Jordan.
I think that we are going to beat Olympiacos. I think it's going to be 3-0. I think it's going to be. I think we're going to be like fired up. I think that we're going to be so pissed over Burnley that we're going to just come out of the gates and realize like this is it. We're going to put it all on the line for Burnley. Or for Burnley, that was a Freudian slip. We're going to put it all on the line for Olympiacos, and we're going to. Why are you laughing at me, man? We're going to win 3-0. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then I can't look. I want our European hopes alive, so I'm putting it out there in the universe. And then for Spurs, I think it's going to be an annoying 2-2 draw against Spurs.
Okay.
And yeah. So we're gonna beat Olympiacos and we're gonna draw Spurs, I think.
Okay. I think we are gonna. I don't think. I hope we are going to beat Olympiacos 3-0.
Yep.
Okay. There, I've said it. I've got it out there.
Yeah.
I hope we're going to beat Spurs 3-2.
Hold on, Tom. You can't say, I hope. It has to be what you think. Because
it's a prediction.
Will be Olympiacos 5-0. But it doesn't happen.
You have to understand, Adam, you've watched us this season, right? And you've watched what's happened to us. Everything this season that could have gone wrong for us has gone wrong for us. Like, I can't. This has been my least favorite season of all, through frustration, through just silly, just the state of the social media, how things have devolved socially amongst the fan base.
More than that, like Wenger in, Wenger out season. Like
genuinely. That was unbearable. Because I preferred it because I knew where I stood. I knew where there's a very clear line as well between things, and I feel like everyone was pretty much tired at that stage and was just willing to move on to something new. We've got something new now, and it's not even a case of when we left Arsene Wenger, it was interesting to see what might come next because it's going to be different. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be new. But this season is just, it's deflated me completely this season. It's a really tough one. And I feel like I've earned something at the end of it. I feel like all of us have earned something, and hopefully we can get something out of it at the end. It would be unreal if we managed to win.
Because if we win the Europa League, that would be unreal. I mean, because it would be FA Cup first season for Arteta, Europa League second season for Arteta. I mean, that would be fantastic. But there's a lot right on the line, and it's a big ask. Olympiacos, maybe not as much, even though there were a team that we went out to, like, annoyingly. But, like, I mean, there's some teams that are kind of scary coming into form. You're looking at even like teams like United, who just put on Spurs, who just put on a clinic against City. Like,
that's the thing. I was getting a little bit excited. Like, we beat Leicester, United were stuttering, Spurs weren't doing that great, and now all of a sudden it changes. Like, I mean, luckily United have got Milan. One team is going to get knocked out. That's a big side. Leicester have gone. Napoli have gone. Like, there are some big teams that have moved on. Roma's still in it. Spurs are still in it. We're still in it. There's Sparta. What is it?
There's good teams. Xhaka, there's good. Someone in the chat just said, "Where's the faith coming from?" Listen, hold on. There's no faith here. It's not that I think we're going to win the Europa League. It's very difficult, but it's not. Hope. It's not. It's hope. It's hope, and it's like it's possible. It's the easiest route back into the Champions League, and easy is a very, very big stretch. Okay, so it's hope. It's hope. We're predicting.
It's pure hope.
I hope we win.
And that's the thing. It's what I genuinely I went into this and I was talking the other half about this. So I was not dreading this podcast, but I'm genuinely really sad as an Arsenal fan at the moment. Like I'm so down about Arsenal at the moment because of what happened yesterday and the VAR stuff. I genuinely feel we were robbed of that performance and how things would be very different. The Wolves I haven't got over that Wolves game. I really haven't got over that Wolves game.
And you should have.
Because I'm a little confused what's going on in the chat. It seems that people are thinking that we are optimistic about winning Europa League.
Oh no, this is pure hope, guys. We're willing this into existence.
There's like this. We have to play potentially Spurs, United. These are teams that are coming into amazing form right now. Like this is not easy, and likely we're out of Europe next season. That's what's probably going to happen. But I don't want to. I want to like get that out of there. Like. I think that it's possible. So why not believe that we could have the ability to do it? We can. Like if we put on amazing performances, it's a knockout competition. Like one goal win each game. You know what I mean? So like if I don't think that there's a reason to watch the games because I think we're not going to win it, then like what's the point of being a sports fan in general? Like this is why we watch.
Exactly. That's what annoys me, and it's a shame because I've actually seen conversations this week with people. Like I've had people tweeting me. I put jokingly out like we're only 5 points off the champions and we got a game in hand. Like I just jokingly, and people go, it doesn't matter. We're going to lose that game in hand. It's like it's that attitude that I just can't stand it. Like just I feel like in a way a lot of people have forgotten what it is to support the club. Like it's really sad. It's really sad. The stage and like doesn't stop me from coming on here and with some fantastic people like yourselves and trying.
We're gonna win 3-0 anyway, so it doesn't matter. So don't worry about it.
A win in the North London derby and a win on Thursday would be unreal. Like it would not turn people's thoughts on the manager, of course, but it would turn the mood around the club after a really disappointing draw. Anyway, it's been a real pleasure to chat to you guys tonight. And of course, it's been a pleasure in the chat box as well. I know we don't agree. We barely ever do. But we appreciate all of you for tuning in. If you could drop a like on the video, even if you've agreed with us or you haven't, we would really appreciate that. John, always a pleasure, mate. I'm sure we'll schedule a Let's Talk Arsenal podcast at some point. I know that you're coming on at the end of the month for the Interlull podcast, which I'm planning to do as maybe a quiz, which could be quite fun. So yeah, we have got a spot going, Adam, if you're still available for that one. But it's going to be a quiz, I think.
What is a quiz? Like I'm out of school for a long time. I don't want to.
Name the most successful young Spanish manager at Arsenal that won an FA Cup in 2020.
Oh, I'm going to lose this quiz. I'm terrible at these kind of quizzes.
But yeah, we're going to do something for the Interlull because it's the international break, and it's there's barely any good football on because everyone's retaining their players. No one's letting their players go and play, so it's going to be a really weird international break. Anyway, though, yeah, it's been a pleasure, Adam, as always, mate.
No problem. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed today. It's been like a therapy.
It's been great. Yeah. It's been great. And the chat, like as much as there's certain things I've disagreed with, they've been awesome today. Good job, chat.
Yeah, they're genuinely. You've had some really good discussions in there, guys. It's going to be. Hopefully the mood will change. So join us tomorrow at 9:00 in the evening. I'll be joined by Soph from the Highbury squad as we have a very frank discussion and debate where two people with very different points of view. So it should be interesting. And on Tuesday I'll be joined by Drew. And we'll be looking ahead on Wednesday to the Olympiacos game. And after that Olympiacos game, there will always be the Raw Reaction show. And hopefully I'll be back with you for the game as well. Fingers crossed for the watch along. It's been an absolute pleasure as always to speak to you tonight. We will see you again very, very soon. If you could drop a like on the video, I really appreciate it. And subscribe to the channel if you're new. And make sure you give the guys a follow on their respective Twitter accounts. We'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.